would encourage all the clinicians seeing this. Don't be afraid. A tool can only be useful if you use it.
Welcome, everyone, to RITP Podcast. I'm Kokeb McDonald, the founder of RITP. And today, I have a special guest for you. I have an OT, Babita Patnaik. She is one of our OT specialists and in our certification program, and also as part of our RITP school program. And she has a lot of success story. I wanted to bring her here and introduce her to you as well as learn from her. So welcome. Babita, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Babita Patnaik. I'm from India. Have been here for past 35 years as a therapist, as an occupational therapist. And I'm very excited to be in this program. Have been doing this unofficially for almost a year and a half. Then I got into the certification program and I'm going to do the mentorship program. But the real reason I'm here is to let everybody know, especially therapists, parents, and caregivers, that this program is effective. So I want to share some of my very positive, strong stories. And I'll also talk about few things that I've noticed as a pattern and we can discuss because I think only through collaboration, communication, and sharing of knowledge is where we can take our efforts to the next level and help our kids who are in real need for something like this program.
Yes, I'm so excited to share your stories. I know it's always exciting to hear your success stories and whenever you share with me, just so that people and specialists can understand what kind of schools are you working with and what kind of clienteles are you working with?
So I'll tell you a story. I'm a storyteller, as you can tell. I like to tell where I started. When I did my course in India for almost 5 years, I did my occupational therapy course from Kolkata. And the first job, you believe it or not, was in a place called Spastic Society of Eastern India in Kolkata, where we had to do the evaluation assessment. And it was a special school. In India, we are just starting to integrate the kids into the public school. We have private clinics over there and special schools. So this school where I worked at, I had an opportunity to do the reflex testing because when you have kids with cerebral palsy, a lot of genetical abnormalities, different diagnoses, the first thing we were taught is how to identify the reflexes. So back then, 35 years ago, I had no idea that in the circle of life will bring me here. Coming back to the present, I have had my experience in various settings, but the last 3 years, I have been predominantly working for the school system in very rural, one of the rural Missouri town called Thayer. And we have a clinic there, and I work through the hospital, so I get to do the inpatient too in various settings, but predominantly in the school setting, from preschool all the way to high school.
And then you also do clinical work?
Yes, in the outpatient setting.
In the outpatient.
Yes.
And then age right now, so you started more, you said spastic and cerebral palsy, but right now you're seeing all cases?
Yes. If we talk about diagnosis, it's very interesting how when we talk about the reflex patterns and functional patterns, you can really relate to something as basic as learning the milestones and taking it to the next level. The diagnosis usually puts us into a category, you already make a predetermination of what you are expecting from the kid you see. Through this course, I have backed myself and said, okay, I'm going to leave the diagnosis for a reason for the kids to get whatever benefits they're getting, but I am going to look at the developmental patterns, the NDT, the neurodevelopmental patterns. And that's what basically this program taught me, is to go to the basics of development. And as you know, when you have the triangle of where you go from the basic reflex pattern to the emotional regulation and the cortical level, and if you understand those concepts and apply it like how you have created very systematic, very organized way, it made it so much easier. So even though I see every diagnosis you mentioned,
Yeah.
With my clinical experience, I've given more emphasis to your milestone, how to relate milestone with the reflexes and try to understand all that in a completely different way. Once you understand that and apply it, it's like maths. See a problem, identify the pattern, use the technique, and here you go, see the results. That's what I want to talk to you today about a couple of histories. I see 40 kids through the week in the school. I also have another 15 kids that I see in the clinic. This summer, I'll be seeing all these students in my clinic twice a week so that I can get them ahead of the game. So when they go back to school, they'll be in a different level. That's what I'm hoping, and we'll see how that goes.
Great. So what were you using before, and what was the result or challenges that you were facing, and what led you to researching more? Because you said you're familiar with reflex integration 35 years ago and then kind of got lost and came back again. So I wanted to know what pushed you this time around.
So this is another story. We had our own business in home health. COVID hit and we had to close the business. So we were looking for a job, got these wonderful job in a rural, we used to live in a small town called Poplar Bluff in rural Missouri. It was a lot of anxiety. Now that I know, I can tell I had all the motor reflex symptoms going on. Me and my husband had that. And I was constantly almost not walking on my toes, but my toes would go up. I'm thinking, this is what happened. I can put two and two together. That time I was frantically looking for some courses I could do to get results because this clinic had every challenging kind of kiddos you can think of from 0 to 18 years old. And then the school came later. So I had to, as a professional working for 35 years, you just want to get everything you can get. I happened to come across a course by Harkla that I think you are also familiar with. And then I did another course by Dr. Karen Pryor online. I understood the concept, but it was not enough. I wanted something concrete, something easy, something I could be confident about. So then when I came across your books, that's what I used. I'll talk about the two case studies we're going to discuss. Oh my God, I started getting results in a month. And I'm thinking, okay, there is some validity to it. I need to do more research. I started using more and more the information from the book, but I really needed to know what actually is the reason we are doing these exercises, to be a little bit more on a personal level, ask questions and what your program entails. Basically, that's what I needed. Then I happened to come across your course and I joined, which is almost another few months and I'll be done with it. It was the 1-year course that I joined last year.
You've gotten amazing results. I love getting the results. Let's talk about case study. I think that's what is exciting for us, right? How do you get a kid where you started the child and what you've done and then the results that you got. So let's talk about the first case study.
The first case study I want to talk about is one of the first few kiddos that came to me, and I had no answer for the parent. The parents want an answer. Why is this happening? I did not know what to do. Thank God that time I was getting all these information, and I started on spinal galant reflex. So this kiddo, just to paint the clinical picture, was 10 years old, was having issues with bedwetting, emotional dysregulation, very bad. I mean, you wouldn't know when he would have a meltdown. The mother wouldn't know what caused that problem. And they had a lot of argument, even in the clinic when they would come, he would just burst out. And it was always the mother that he showed his anger towards. With me, he was fine, but then I would witness all that very inappropriate social behavior. And what the mother was mainly concerned about the fact that he had an emotional flatness when it came to very like hard, sad situations. For example, they had a farm and the little chick died and he would laugh at it. Somebody fell, he would laugh at it. Somebody cried in his school. The teacher had complained that he shows very inappropriate emotional issues. He's not very appropriate. I was in a fix. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Where do I start? since the spinal gland had a direct relationship with the toileting issue. And also, the other thing I noticed was he had a spinal curve. So he had scoliosis. It kind of jived with the clinical signs and symptoms that we could use. So I started using those. Tracking his spine, he just had this very positive spinal gland. That's where I started. But as I learned more and more, I saw ATNR. He had significant more, or he would not lay on the ball at all because he was like, he would just jerk and come back. And this kiddo also had a lot of medical condition that caused him, he had asthma that was making him so anxious going into the extension position. So there were many other medical conditions, but I was really looking at, okay, what are the reflexes I'm seeing? Even the palmar reflex, even the rotating reflex was very prominent. I started with spinal gland because at that point I thought, okay, this kiddo, the first thing is bedwetting. That was my first concern because that's what mom listed in terms of the problems that the kiddo had. Then I asked her what are his strengths because that's what we need to work to get the emotional regulation.
Yeah, you're
Using
following the
some of
treatment plan.
yeah, following my tree. So
Good.
then, like I said, your strengths, let's find the strengths and the interest. So
Yes.
he played violin and he played guitar with the left hand. They had brought him a left-handed guitar and he loved horse riding. So there were so many good things happening in the backside with the parent that I got that help. And then we worked on the spinal gland exercises. Slowly and steadily, within 1 month, he was completely dry, didn't have to use all those heavy, I hate to call diaper, I think they're called,
Pull-ups.
yeah, pull-ups. At that age, he was very uncomfortable. His confidence had decreased. All the problems I saw with him started changing into the positive direction.
Nice.
And now he's riding a horse. His reading skills went exponentially high. I think he's doing advanced reading now. His handwriting skill from being all over the place with visual perceptual issues, now it all came down. And all this has direct link with the spinal gland, with the vestibular system getting in place. So we did a lot of balance, throwing the ball, tracking, doing figure eight, and we incorporated other issues too, but we were constantly using the exercise as the base to work on all the spinal alignment, doing your pelvic alignment, just working on the, all the movement, active movement. Right now, I still have a little bit of issue with him into the hand move, like the palmar grasp, but most of his reflexes have come down completely. Another thing I noticed with him is he's using abstract thinking from
Really?
being,
That's
yes,
awesome.
when
Because yeah,
they have
that's
abstract thinking from being
another one.
complete meltdown. So that was a thing that mom said when he gets upset, he doesn't get up and move from the table. He talks about the problem. Then he talks about the getting the antique things, storing it so that he can sell after a few years to get some money. So he's thinking about a lot of things that comes with the cortical functioning. The brainstem is finally calming down, and now he's using a lot of his cortical neuroplasticity is happening with
That's
bilateral
awesome.
integration and a lot of good things.
One of the things I also noticed with your cases, the parents you work with, they do follow through a lot more.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit more. Did you give him a home program? Were they following a home program, or were you seeing him just you? Because that makes a whole difference as well.
So we definitely have a written up home exercise program that you had the first level, second level, third level. So we do
Yeah.
that. And I also have given them the app. But more than that, I see them once a week. Basically, the
Yeah.
credit goes to the parent.
In the home
I
program.
feel like in every case, if they do good, it's my guidance, but they are doing it. And if they do it consistently, I'm seeing the results. And the app that you have sent to us, the app is very good because what I do is they see the app. I also go a step further. I tell the mother to record when he's seeing the app in the clinic. So she uses the app for the correction, but then she also uses the actual recorded part for him in the clinic. So they have two things to look at and compare. It becomes like a nice program to do. It gives them input as to, okay, I'm not doing this correctly. This girl is doing like this. I kind of encourage him because he's 10 years old and he's very tech savvy. So he likes to do those things. I can see where you're concerned about, this program is very, very effective when parents first see the results. Once they see the results, they'll do it. You have to put that trust in them. And they will fall down through the, sometimes with busy schedule, you have to give them that little leeway, but then gently nudge them and say, hey, this is going the right direction. Let's not fall down because it will take some time. Do that a couple of times in a nice way. And once they trust you and build that relationship with the kid, they'll do anything for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's the parent who sent parent review. I think that's the story that she sent a review for you, right? The testimony.
That was one. Yeah, I think the one that I'm talking to you about, she has another review and she talked a lot. Yeah, she's very specific because she's also very
involved.
She understands all the medical concepts. And so that helps a lot too.
Okay, let's talk about case number 2.
Okay, case number 2, she was 4 years old. And that's when I had just started learning how to use the app. I had shared the exercises with her and we did it for 1 month. And this kiddo was nonverbal, had a lot of sensory seeking. She would not sit still. She went to a Head Start program and she would have a lot of issues communicating with the other kids and start, like a lot of throwing things and, just not sharing things. And at 4 years old, what you expect, she didn't have any of those. She wouldn't hold the spoon properly to eat. So her eating is still a concern, but not as much. Now she's trying different things, very picky eater. Then she also had bedwetting issues. That was one of the things. That's at 3 to 4, the kids ought to be going to the bathroom by themselves, indicating, but she had the same issue as my previous kid. Again, I used the spinal gland reflex as my guide, and we started doing that. But as I was doing that, I noticed anytime we did bilateral hand functions or even crossing midline, right, left, laterality, and all that, when I was working on this kiddo, I noticed her tongue sticking out very prominently. And then I thought, okay, let me do Babkin as well as spinal gland. Within 1.5 months, now she speaks like 3-word sentences. Mom is very excited and really wants to bring in a speech therapist. We don't have access to a pediatric speech therapist now because the one who was there with me, who was also Reflex certified integrations certified speech therapist, she's out of the picture. So it's very hard.
Yeah.
We are looking for another speech therapist in our clinic. So hopefully we'll find someone soon. She still has a lot of vestibular seeking, which we are providing. She was not wearing her clothing before because of that, constantly ants in the pants kind of situation. We did some modification to that. Now she wears night clothes to bed. She's speaking. She calls me Miss B and Miss Babita, which is not very clear, but you can tell she's calling my name. She's able to tell her colors, numbers, and we use the drums. Before you taught us that technique of open and close with the I and E, I was using the drumming as she did A, B, C, D, just to think, just like an OT thinks, okay, we are using the hand as we are talking, so it will integrate. And it really helped that too. We still got a little way to go with her eating habits. Mom is very much satisfied with what we have done so far, and she brags on us all over the place. She's totally toilet trained, indicates her toileting needs, sleeps through the night. Because of her spinal gland, she was very uncomfortable in the night. She would get up. Now she sleeps through the night. Her eating is getting better. Her classroom behavior has gotten so much better. She's able to sit down for at least 30 minutes during my session and participate in task without getting up and running like she did before. So that is an exceptional case study. Just doing the spinal gland and introducing the Babkin reflex integration exercises helped us tremendously. Had I not known these things, I would be like doing the traditional that I did before.
Yeah.
And even if I'm doing something, I'm looking into the patterns, as I said, looking at, Is she holding the block in the palm of her hand, or is she using just the finger? That makes huge sense, because if they are avoiding this, they definitely have. Then you look at the tongue. What about the face? All those things that you very subtly explain in your course has come in very, very handy, because I know what the problem is and where to go for the solution. After that, if I don't find a solution, I send you videos to ask ask and tell, hey, give us some more input. So it's been very, very fast understanding and applying these concepts that I've learned so far.
I love it. Yeah. So I think for those of you who are listening and wondering the process of RITP, as we follow the developmental milestone, we follow the functional development as well, movement pattern, the primal movement pattern, and we also follow the primitive reflex, the primary motor reflex pattern. So we look holistically, and when you're creating a treatment plan or trying to find baseline, we start from where the child is at by looking at not just by screening the reflex, but also looking at functional skill. And then as she was talking, we also start with what are their strengths, what are the weaknesses, because we implement that and we incorporate that as part of the treatment planning process and implementation. I love it. Just to give an idea, your sessions, how long are your sessions and what does one session look like for you? Do you do functional activities and you constantly screening? Are you doing the specific exercises? You always hitting those exercises at each session? Just so that a therapist curious about how your session looks like, how you put together one session. I always say that you have one case in front of 100 therapists, you see 100 way of approaching that case, right? So we all have our own way of implementing our session. I'm curious to see yours, because you said right now you implement reflex integration method inside of pretty much all of your sessions, which I do too. That's the lens that I use. It helps my treatment plan easier. I can follow it much easier, make sense in my head. So if it makes sense to me, I can implement it. Just briefly tell the therapist what one session looks like.
So in the school, we have 30-minute sessions. And in the clinic, I can go anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes. In the clinic, the first question I ask the parent is, how is the kid doing? I always go by what we did last week to this week. I ask, how was the exercise session? Did you follow through? How was the sleep? Being an OT, I focus on sleep, eating, dressing. What problems did you face in the school? So the general aspect of how the kid is doing, because that's basically my focus. And then from there, we go back to what did we do last week and how many times, what upgrade I'm going to do this week. As I suggested, it's always good to do a recording by the parent so that they have this visual thing with them. And pretty much every parent will do one if you ask them to do on their phones. So they do it and they take it home. So they have the home program along with the RITP app, the information, the playlist that I have created and upgraded. If the kid is doing those exercises as per my expectation and they don't have any reflex patterns or they have overcome that, I'll go to the next level and upgrade the playlist. That's basically how we do it. And it helps to keep me organized. But then I also have to tell you that in school, I have to do the visual part, the writing part, and not as much ADLs unless they have the toileting issue. I focus on certain things. The question that you had asked, which I think I kind of answered it in a very different way, but we do have to do the standardized sensory processing measure that gives us an outline of where we are now. And then we do all the standardized DTVP. I try to do DTVP because that gives me the visual perceptual aspect of it. And I bring that into the handwriting. So, including all these standard, it's a lot. It sounds a lot, but it's not that hard if you have these things in your mental map and then just go with it. And I think if you ask the teacher or the mother, how did he do this week? You get the answer, and that's where you can start to. That's my personal way of doing things.
It's a good visual to kind of understand for therapists to understand like how do you set up their session. And then I like that you started with, that's what we talk about too. We started with the main concern of their parents, and then you go back
Yes.
Because if you do not, because
Yeah.
some might wonder why you start with spinal gland. Some therapists will think why. That's because the kids have the glaring concern. So if that's what's emotionally affecting the kid, that if that's the main concern, his older kid, he emotionally is affecting him, his, the way he is looking at himself is affecting him, everything else being affected. She started from the main concern. Then you solve that and go back and start addressing everything else. So we always, in goal writing too, we start with the parent's concern. Why did they come to you? What's their main concern? Handle that first, and then you can handle the rest. Otherwise, if you don't meet that need, they less likely that you're going to have a carryover, and you have a really high carryover, a home carryover.
Yes. Yes. And I think as a clinician, they look up to you for that level of confidence. That's why it's very important to understand everything and just have an open mind and do all these courses. If you have a question, you can come to the instructor or your guide and ask them. When you have that support system and are confident in what you're doing, you will provide the results. I would encourage all the clinicians seeing this. Don't be afraid. A tool can only be useful if you use it the proper way. That's my personal advice. Have an open mind. That is the main thing, because everywhere I go, I do have that question of, okay, show me research, this, that. And then I just step back and I say, yes, I have research. I'm working on this. We do have researches that we can show, but the best thing that you can ever get is taking care of the problem the kid had. If you can show that, that's it. Then people start, okay, this works. So that is what I'm doing mainly through my work, and also doing research with you guys so we can have something concrete to present to the school system. My school has been very supportive.
Yes, I'm excited about that. I think we're going to need to talk about that in another episode about the school, because the school is very exciting. We just released our RITP at school program, and then the results that we're getting has been amazing. And then definitely want to talk to you more about how you're doing it.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay. So thank you so much. Is there any last advice you want to give therapists who are searching for support? What would you give advice to one new OTs who are just coming out, probably super overwhelmed? But I also want you to talk to therapists who are seasoned therapists, because you came in with a lot of knowledge, a lot of years in your belt and experience. And what I appreciated from you is you're willing to learn, you want the support, and you're there to just constantly wanting to learn. That's why I feel like your client's the best result.
Okay, so I'm a mother of two beautiful kids, and I have a very good friend. She's done some reflex training, and when I first started getting into pediatric, she told me, look at a kid with the possibility and treat a kid like you have your own kid, and how you only look at the possibilities. You don't worry about what they cannot do. I mean, that will come, but you don't restrict yourself saying somebody labeled this kid, so this kid will not be able to do that. That's number one. That's one of my best principles that I have taken to my kiddos. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis, like I was telling you, I look at, okay, what are your possibilities and what are the hindrance? We will take care of the hindrance, get you to the possibility. So that's one concept that all the therapists can take, instead of instead of having that brain block of, okay, this kid has this, so he won't, when you start doing that, you take away the neuroplasticity component of the brain, which happens through reflex integration. That's number one. The second thing is, I think everybody should start getting information on the stories that they are creating and finding indicators. For example, in my case, I am in Missouri, so I am collecting all the iReady scores. I see which kids are improving. What did I do with these kids? What was their diagnosis? I'm looking at their indicators. And then I'm also looking at the kids who have challenges. And then what are we going to do with those challenges? So if you have a tracking system for your own self, that itself is a research work for you, and it will give you a feeling of accomplishment when you get from point A to point B. It would not be because you didn't do your part. The follow through of the parents, the environmental conditions they face at home. There are so many things. For example, one classic example, recently we had all these tornadoes, We had floods. The school was off. And when the kids come back to school, everything that you have got in this last month or two, the brain goes into protective mode. Then you
Trauma.
also know that once they have gone to that level, they will stop there. And then again, they will start going up again. So you have to allow yourself to understand what is going around you and what are the factors that can cause that the brain stops, because right then you want to be in the protective mode. So that's what I would suggest. Have open mind, do these courses. Reflex integration, surprisingly, is all over the world now. Everybody's talking about it, and we are here in the right moment. If you are a new graduate doing a SI course, it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you have to understand so much. Do the reflex integration course. It's reasonable, effective, and fun. It's based on play. So that's what I would tell a new therapist. It's all win-win. So just do it. And once you start seeing these things that happen to our kids, it's amazing.
Love it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We'll have Babita here again to talk about RITP at school and
Yes.
some case studies she's looking at and using, and the results that she's getting as well. It's great to use actual case study and to see how we're implementing these activities inside the school, and then what educational progression are they going through, and then the implementation that the teachers are able to do, or as a therapist, that what she's able to give, and success stories or some challenges. So we will have Babita here again, hoping to have another session with you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys again.